helps our visibility with Microsoft sellers, which in turn helps us when we're introduced to new partners.
It has accelerated our entrance into new markets, and our product is developing with higher quality and at higher speed than it would otherwise have.
Things like ISV licensing, handling our licenses just like any Microsoft first-party applications. We see that as a big benefit.
What ISV Connect program introduced is very different level of confidence with our customer. And with the Microsoft expanding the program, we are expecting to grow our ISV portfolio significantly.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Connect Live. My name is Brian Galicia, and I lead our global Dynamics 365 ISV business here. I've been at Microsoft for almost 17 years now, and it's an honor and pleasure to welcome the CEO of Ascent Cloud to the show. But before we get to David, let me do a quick few seconds of housekeeping. One, welcome to 20. It's weird for me to say this, but welcome to 2023, because Ascent Cloud is actually our very first ISV Connect Live show attendee since we started the new year. Part of it is because my schedule trying to align it really well. I just got back from vacation last week, so it's amazing to bring this back for 2023. As you're listening, if there are comments or questions you want to ask real time, feel free to put that in the LinkedIn commentary window. And if there's time at the end, I'm more than happy to raise that and drive that awareness to David, and we can ask that in real time. The second question is, well, where are you watching from? We have a global audience, so we'd always like to know if you're watching from somewhere in the US, Canada, Latin America, Europe, or maybe you're up late and watching this from Asia. Welcome. Thank you for making the investment of time. Or if you're watching the replay later, again, thank you for making the investment to watch it. But definitely put in the window where you're watching from. We'll spend a few minutes giving a shout out for people listening. So also during the event, if there are things that really resonate with you, feel free in the LinkedIn commentary, use like, support, celebrate, etc., because that also gives us visibility and insight to know that the content is resonating for the people watching either live or via the replay. Without further ado, David, welcome so much. I appreciate you making the investment of your busy day, and also you making, with many people in your organization, making the decision to partner with Microsoft. So welcome to the show. We could start out with what are your typical roles and responsibilities being the CEO of Ascent Cloud? And then one of the icebreaking questions I always love to ask is, what's one thing not that you want to potentially amplify and share that's not on your LinkedIn profile?
Sure. So thanks, Brian. As Brian mentioned, I'm CEO of Ascent Cloud. We're a sales performance management suite focused on how do you plan, execute, and measure your go-to-market strategies. So the planning piece is all around Territory Planner, which we'll be talking more about today. The execute piece is really around our GeoPoint solution. How do you enable your teams with the ability to execute on that go-to-market strategy? And our last piece, Level 11, really helps reinforce those key behaviors through gamification and coaching. But we're going to focus mostly on Territory Planner today, so really excited to be talking about that. And something that's not on my LinkedIn profile or maybe not be readily available is, I guess, a passion around philanthropy and community service. So that really started out early in my career with Back on My Feet. So that's an organization that organizes running groups for people living in homeless shelters and trying to work their way out of being homeless and finding long-term stability. Great organization if you get a chance to check it out. Also was able to donate bone marrow in a couple instances to people. So that was something that was personally impactful for me. But more recently, I've had the opportunity to get involved with something called the Leinweber Foundation at a board level. And super high level, we focus on research, education, and community outreach. Mostly in the Metro Detroit area, and the University of Michigan is a great example, as well as Michigan State. And I want to give a shout out to my wife, Jessica Leinweber. She's the executive director for the Leinweber Foundation. She's been instrumental in driving the Leinweber Software Scholars. These are students who are from the state of Michigan who want to pursue their careers in technology long-term in the state of Michigan. We had a bit of a problem of brain drain for a while, so it's really to see that trend reversing and really helping areas like Detroit and Ann Arbor. But then Beyond that, we've also had the opportunity and really been lucky enough to participate in the Leinweber Building for Computer Science and School of Information at the University of Michigan, which will greatly expand the university's ability to handle the incoming demand for people interested in majoring in computer science and School of Information. So really excited about those two opportunities.
Gosh, well, David, it's amazing that you have so much passion around this, and then you're able to balance that with your busy schedule. I mean, I love it. I mean, from the homeless running thing, I've never even heard of that before, so I'll have to check that out. And then also donating your own, lack of a better body to help other people. I mean, that's amazing. And then the last one, in partnering with your spouse on this amazing thing. Gosh, well, thank you so much. And hopefully those of you listening, you can check out some of those examples that David mentioned to give back, because I love hearing those types of stories. So before we get to the next question, let me do a quick shout out from everyone watching. So Jessica, thanks for watching. And I'm not sure if it's snowing where you are, David. Fortunately enough, snow did not hit Seattle. It did hit our friends to the south in Portland, but it looks like it also hit Idaho, where Jessica's watching from. Thanks, Jessica, for making the time. David, watching from Detroit, so probably very close to you. So thanks, Steve, for making the time. We have someone watching from Europe, so Paris, France, not Paris, Texas. So thanks, Joanna, for watching. Paula, watching from sunny. I'm a little jealous. I just got back from Hawaii myself last week, so I'm missing the sun. But thanks for making the time from Mexico. And then one more, we have Rudy, and it's interesting. I think the snow symbol, because I've seen that as well. Like it's been really interesting to see some of the weather patterns around the U.S. Recently, and yeah, it was kind of crazy because I saw that in California it was snowing, which is not very typical. So anyway, thank you all for making the investment of time to watch this live. We truly appreciate it. So David, the next big one is you touched upon a little bit, but why don't you pack, like, what does Ascent Cloud provide? What are the outcomes, the business outcomes that between what you do and now partnering with Microsoft and particularly Dynamics? What are those scenarios that really impact customer outcomes that customers might decide to purchase and evaluate your solution?
Yep. Yeah, thanks, Brian, for asking that. As I touched on before, we really focus on sales performance management. So how do you plan, execute, and measure your go-to-market strategy? But the piece we'll be talking about today the most will be around territory planners. We have a connector to Dynamics where you're able to basically bring Dynamics data into our platform and CSV uploads and a variety of other things as well. So basically get your account, your opportunity, your lead information into Ascent Cloud. And then how do you equally distribute that across your different sales reps? So we're trying to take something that every company does, territory planning, and streamline it and optimize it. So instead of taking weeks, months, or longer to do this all in Excel, and again, we all love Excel, how do we find ways to take those insights and tie it closer to the CRM and build in approvals, build in different ways to give you a better starting point, and again, also get it visually onto a map so it's easy to see how you're optimizing your territories. Once those are good, you can approve those and push them back into the CRM, in this case, Microsoft Dynamics. So that's at a very high level. And really the situations we hear about is either how do we capture opportunities that we're missing right now if we're growing, or if we're restructuring and maybe going through layoffs or trying to do more with less, as a lot of companies are these days. How do we make sure that we're not missing opportunities, because sales and revenue opportunities don't go away. It's how do we make sure we're capturing on those with maybe a smaller team than we had before.
Yeah, well said, David. And I love how you said do more with less, because all of us, I mean, I think we're all paying attention to what's in headlines and the news, and trying to be more effective, especially in sales, it's one of this science and art that you try to go do and try to optimize for the best outcomes, and ensuring that you have the right representation in however you slice and dice where your sellers are going after opportunities. And so maybe you could talk a little bit more. I mean, you mentioned Excel, and that's a common scenario. And I'm sure people maybe listening to this live or watching a replay, you could all kind of nod your head going, yeah, that's kind of what we do. Maybe you can unpack that a little bit and talk about what are some of the things when someone goes and says, gosh, this is so inefficient, and what's that immediate aha moment when they switch over and they start using Ascent Cloud? Maybe talk about one of the most valuable kind of capabilities that allows someone to get off of Excel and move into ability to have a visual tool, especially the mapping scenario, because I think that's was pretty valid, because I'm very visual, and I think a lot of people would look at it and go, okay, looking at a map, let's say it's the US, and trying to say, okay, how am I going to do the West Coast or the Central or whatever it is? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head is what's digestible for the average sales manager, sales leader, or sales operations professional. Certainly not everyone is a data scientist. I mean, I love data. I mean, I've certainly built plenty of sales territory miles in the past using Excel. It's a fantastic tool, Power BI as well. But bringing in the granularity to then look at it on the map, as you said, bring that visual component to it is a huge game changer, and people can just digest and understand the information better and candidly spot things that might not look quite right. Maybe the address was wrong or something like that, and saying, oh, why does this account over here? It should really be over here. It just makes it's a lot easier to catch those things when you're looking at things visually on a map as opposed to just an Excel, even though Excel is a very powerful tool. And beyond that, you've made all this investment in your CRM and all the great things that Microsoft does. How do you make sure all that data is connected in one place and you're not disjointed between doing imports and exports from your CRM to Excel, and then maybe getting out of sync with what's really going on? So those are a couple of areas that we really see a lot of benefit in using something like Territory Planner, or any territory planning tool where you're breaking that kind of siloed mentality of, I'm going to do this in a spreadsheet and I'm going to bring it back in. Oh, there's issues. And then there's a lot of iteration back and forth. That seems to be where a lot of the time suck really goes to people dealing with this nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. And you think about when people typically do that, and you mentioned a few of it, they either do it because they started a new fiscal year, or they're doing it because they're evaluating their performance and something's happening that they have to go do it, or they're impacted because they had some influx of more resources or less resources. They have to go do that. Would that be a fair kind of summary?
Yeah, it's something that companies do at least once a year. We've heard companies do as often as quarterly, but frankly, you have to rebalance for a variety of reasons throughout the year. You're hiring people, or unfortunately, if you do have to let people go or people leave, you still want to make sure those territories are getting adequate coverage. So you certainly want to make sure that you're not missing out on those opportunities. So I'd say it's one big planning a year, it seems like, for most companies at minimum, and then rebalancing throughout the year. Typically on, let's say, a quarterly basis, they might be doing some sort of true up. And also, frankly, seeing, is the plan working? We had a hypothesis for how things were going to go this year. Let's say it's 2020 and there's COVID, and you were a heavily in-person organization. Maybe you had to tweak it to be more of a time zone approach as opposed to being in person as much as you were in the field. Now, as we're coming out of it, maybe you're trying to get more in-person touches than you were, during the last couple of years.
Yeah, I love it, David. And you had it amazingly too with this seamless integration, because it can't just be the silo of information. It has to be back and forth where you can tie that assignment to the assignments that would then naturally occur with records that exist in a CRM tool like Dynamics. So it's a good segue into the next, the question is just the decision that you made. I mean, I know that there's choices out there, and when you have amazing ISVs like yourself that started in another ecosystem and evaluating to go to another one, maybe talk about what's that journey been like in the kind of the decision making and the experience so far that you've had with working with Microsoft and now being a Microsoft partner in our Dynamics ecosystem.
For sure. I mean, starting off with, I think everyone on the call would agree, Microsoft's obviously a great organization. We've all touched their solutions and tools in one way, shape, or form, whether that's Azure or Microsoft Teams or Microsoft Office Suite or Windows or Microsoft Dynamics, obviously in this case. So we've always either used or really appreciated Microsoft technology. And then when we were thinking about, we were integrated with one CRM prior to this. And when we're thinking about what was the next CRM that we wanted to look at, Microsoft seemed like the obvious choice, one based off of their customer breadth, but also the enhancements they continue to make to Microsoft Dynamics and the surrounding suite around it. So we're really excited about the Dynamics integration that we have and potentially other integrations in the future with the Microsoft One Cloud.
Yeah, that's great, David. I appreciate, well, all of us, we do really appreciate people making these decisions and evaluating, does it make sense? And you're spot on. I mean, one of the things that's very unique about Microsoft is what you touched upon, the ability to have a single cloud that does a whole bunch of things. And granted, initially right now, it's just with Dynamics, but there's so much value that you shared previously. So let's talk about in the next question, what are the example customers that would get value out of this? I mean, you can imagine it's people with territories, but maybe you can describe in your experience, what are some of the really industry scenarios that you've seen where this has really come to life for customers that have made the decision to invest in Ascent Cloud, and then of course that they're utilizing Dynamics or potentially considering utilizing Dynamics?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you touched on, obviously, it's medium to large size sales teams. When you have 5 or fewer territories, it's pretty easy to figure that out or optimize that. Obviously, we could always help there, but frankly, we feel like it's when you get to 20 or more territories that it really makes sense to bring in something like a territory planner. Our large examples are more in the thousands, but somewhere in that range of dozens to thousands of territories certainly makes a lot of sense. So that leads to what? Large field sales teams or large inside sales teams who still are calling a geographic territory or some sort of territory model. When you think about industries that we've seen a lot of success with, certainly financial services, particularly insurance, we've done particularly well with. When you think about things like manufacturing, medical devices and things of that nature have done very well with our customer base. When you think about telecom, anything where it's geographic nature to their sales model, and they seem to have regional sales hubs and things of that nature. And frankly, technologies, they're early adopters of technology themselves. So those have been like the main industries we've done particularly well with. So financial services, healthcare, and life science, manufacturing, technology have all seen a lot of success.
I love it, David. Yeah, I mean, you think about some of those use cases, just even healthcare, because we mentioned the work that you've done personally, and just the fact that aligning territories based upon just opportunity size of a medical device that someone is selling, and then, to your point, making that decision whatever makes sense, yearly, quarterly, or whatever that is. Maybe you could touch upon. I mean, Ascent Cloud is a global organization, so the ability to do this, I assume the ability to do this in any geography. Of course, us being based in the U.S., pretty straightforward. But when you think about going outside of that, I assume that territory planning can exist in any market that you can serve, as long as that value exists. So is that something that exists with Territory Planner, the ability to have this not just in, of course, North America, but it can exist anywhere?
That's a great question. And to your point, we're based in North America, and we find that the majority of our customers and prospects are in North America, but we have customers all over the world or global organizations themselves. So they may need to have their territory, one set of territories for United States and Canada, but maybe they have a different set for Europe. So we're able to support really any geography, and we plan to make it even easier to optimize based off of different shapes and things of that. We consider them shapes. Let's call them, if it's postal codes here in the United States, it might be provinces in areas of Europe. So we have the most level of granularity here in North America, but we're adding more and more levels in Europe and other major markets internationally as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dave. That's great. So I'll do a quick shout out for anyone who may have a question that you want to ask David in real time. Feel free to put that in the window. But maybe we can get to the final question, David. Maybe give a sense for the people listening, whether they're, let's say, a Microsoft seller or a partner listening to this and going, "Oh, Ascent Cloud, we run into scenarios where we need to do territory planning, and implementation partners don't want to do any custom work. They're like, oh, let's just pick something off the shelf that can do it." Or a customer maybe come across this, and if you're utilizing Dynamics, thank you, and you're like, this seems something that we could take value in. Maybe you can touch upon what's the best way people can engage with your organization and learn more.
Yeah, I'd probably pick 2 ways, and I think we're going to show the links up here. There's going to be a short link that's going to link out to our AppSource listing. So that's for anyone who has Dynamics right now and wants to integrate our Territory Planner solution with their Microsoft Dynamics instance. That's the best way to do that, and we'll make sure that we get you connected with the right people on how to set up that connector between Territory Planner and Microsoft Dynamics. And the other way, if you're you're a partner or a customer just wants to learn more generally, I would recommend going to ascentcloud.io. If you're interested in seeing a demo of our solution and maybe even seeing the broader suite, I'd recommend going to request a demo once you get there. The other would be if you're a potential partner, going to the Contact Us page and reaching out that way. Because as you mentioned, Brian, we are a great off-the-shelf solution instead of having to build something custom from scratch if you're a partner organization out there.
I love it. Thank you, David. And I'm going to do a shout out. So Kimberly also put that on here as well. So thanks, Kimberly, for also putting that in the LinkedIn pane. But those are great next steps and actions. And of course, we're doing this on LinkedIn. So feel free to connect with either one of us. And of course, I'm sure, David, you're welcome. You're probably welcoming to anyone who comes across your LinkedIn profile and can connect with you and ask questions directly of you. So before we wrap up, we do have a video that we'll show at the end. And thanks, Ascent Cloud team, for putting it together. It's about a minute video that really reinforces some of the highlights that David mentioned. But are there any other things that you want to explicitly share, David, before we wrap up and close out the conversation? And truly, truly appreciate you making the time to kind of share a point of view on the benefits of Ascent Cloud.
Yeah, I know if people are listening to this right now, they probably are saying, oh, I wish I had this when I went through territory planning 3 months ago. So my only comment there is, learn from that and, think about how can I do it better next time, whether that's fine tuning your process, but certainly you want to avoid what I've seen a lot of companies say is it takes me 3 to 6 months to do this. How do we get that done to days or weeks? So that's my only comment out there, whether it's Ascent Cloud or someone else. How do you get that time back for your sales operations folks and your planning folks so that they can focus on bigger problems as opposed to something you're going to have to do at least once a year?
Yeah, I love it, David. I mean, what a great summary. Especially sales operations. If you're in a sales operations role, you probably really resonate with what David's talking about, because the scale that you have to go drive the engagement at the start, whenever you do the timing of it. And I think the other critical thing is if you're using Excel today to do it, that is a good kind of a prompt to evaluate, is there something better to help optimize that, as David mentioned. Well, David, gosh, thank you so much again for making time. I love hearing about the stories and the investments that you make outside of your day job to go drive impact to people outside of technology. But for your organization on the stuff that you do with Dynamics, we truly appreciate you making that investment of time. So thank you all for watching the show. Thank you, Ascent Cloud team, for the partnership, and enjoy this quick minute video. And we'll see you again in another ISV Connect live event next week. Take care. Thank you. Thanks again, David.
Building, balancing, and optimizing territories can be painful, and existing approaches lead to missed quotas and frustrated sales teams. Introducing Territory Planner by Ascent Cloud. You now have the power to plan and launch sales territories with ease. No data scientists required. Integrated with your CRM, your team is empowered to work in a world with fewer data restrictions and the freedom to experiment with different models, all without interrupting your CRM workflows. Once your team has approved the territory model, simply publish it to GeoPoint or your CRM. And since it is built by the team that brought you GeoPoint, you can enjoy the same industry-leading service, support, and user experience you have come to expect. With Territory Planner by Ascent Cloud, you have the power and the control to align your sales territories with your unique go-to market strategy. Contact us to schedule a personalized demo today.